Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a it's so fucking hot makeup tutorial. Recently it has been in the high 90s and also in some parts of the country it's been in the early 100s, like 110. It's been really hot out and I think that there's a lack of makeup tutorials on YouTube that kind of show you how to lock in your makeup for the entire day if you are going to be out in like the humidity or even just the heat in general. So this is kind of going to be my sweat-proof kind of face routine, and also setting down the brows and making sure the eyeshadow stays all day as well. If you want to kind of figure out how to get this lemonade, pinky, peach color story that we have going on, and you also want to learn some tricks on how to make sure that your makeup is sweat-proof and heat-proof, then please keep on watching. Alright, so just to address the elephant in the room, I don't know what's been going on with my skin lately. I just have a rash and I really don't know where it came from. There's also like a little bit on my chest I just realized. It's probably not best for me to be putting makeup on right now, but I haven't posted a video in like 2 weeks, so I'm just going to start off with eye makeup and then we're going to move on to the face. But I just want to let some moisturizer sink into the skin. I do have my morning skincare routine on right now, but also I want to put on a sunscreen, and this is specifically for the face. This is from Neutrogena. It's the Age Shield. This is SPF 70, and I guess the problem usually with sunscreens is it can get a little greasy, but I think that for my dry skin it works really well to kind of help me stay glowy and moisturized, and it's just overall really good to have, because even if you are using products with SPF in them, like an SPF foundation or something, usually they don't go above 15. So with putting on the SPF 70, it really helps that just in case your makeup wears down, that you still have that protective layer. And while that sinks into the skin, I'm just going to move on to my eyebrows. I haven't been doing anything too crazy with my brows. I have gone back to the NYX Micro Brow, and this is a little bit lighter, but because it is the summertime, my hair is lightening up and everything like that, so it kind of matches out perfectly, and it just makes the brow a little bit softer. So I brush all the eyebrow hairs up and then kind of just messily run the pencil through the brow. All I really do is work on the arch and the tail a little bit, and then a little bit in the front to kind of make sure everything is the same color, and then I'm pretty much done. And when I get to the front of the brow, I'm kind of like defining the line that I have going on. It helps to kind of make the brows look a little bit more precise. So I defined the underneath, and then just to define it a little bit more, I'm taking a concealer. This is the NARS Radiant Creamy in the shade Chantilly, and I just take this Morphe M224 brush. I think it's a concealer brush. I've never used it for anything else, so it is a synthetic fiber, so it's really good for laying down product, especially cream product. Usually I start in the front and then I immediately move on to tail, because those are the two places where I'm trying to define. And then I still have a little bit of product left over, so I'm not going to dip back in, but I am going to move on to the next one. Do you guys think that this might be contact dermatitis? Because it's not just on my cheeks, it's also on my chest a little bit. I'm always afraid to look things up. I always tell you're gonna die, but I don't know. And my forehead is breaking out, but I think it's because I'm approaching that time of the month. I haven't been doing anything different with my skincare either. I've been trying out some new products, which I'll be talking about soon, but that hasn't affected them a couple weeks ago. It only started happening now, so I'm really not sure what it is. Maybe my products or my hands aren't clean enough, I don't know, but I would like some answers. So to move forward, I am going to buff this out, and I'm going to take this Real Techniques dark spot correcting brush. I didn't even know it had a name, but I am just going to use this to blend out the concealer up top. So now the brow looks very defined. It still looks like it's more natural, but using this technique helps it to look a little bit more kempt, put together, and it creates a nice flat base for the rest of your eye makeup. And then to prime the lid, I'm using, once again, the e.l.f. HD Lifting Concealer. I'm almost out of this, like I said, in my product empties, but I still have a little bit left, so I'm going to use it till the very last drop. I think I know what eye primer I'm gonna get after this, but I don't want to waste product. I want to make sure that I'm using everything to its fullest capacity. I'm going to take the same brush that I used for the upper concealer and just blend it out. So for the actual eye, eye, I'm going to be using two different palettes today. This is the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe, and then this is the regular Morphe 35B palette. I have been using these a lot lately, so I apologize if you haven't been able to get your hands on it or it's not available anymore. I think the Morphe 35B is discontinued, I'm not sure. But really all you need is a palette with a lot of colorful shadows, particularly a nice matte yellow like this, some oranges and pinks as well if you want to change up the look a little bit to your preference. But that's pretty much it. And then for the Jaclyn Hill palette, really as long as you have some mustardy yellows like this color and this color, which are the only two other colors that I'm going to be using, you'll be set. So I'm doing something a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I did this yesterday for an Instagram look. I'm pretty much just not going to set the eye primer. The new school of kids have been doing this for Instagram and also YouTube, and I thought it was really silly at first, but if I really want to get the nice pigment that I want, I don't want to set it and create that boundary between the primer and the actual shadow. So I thought I'd give it a try because we are going all over the lid with a nice bright color and I want to make sure that it pops. So I'm going to go ahead with this Elle funding brush, I believe it's called. It doesn't have the name on the actual brush, but I think it's the blending brush. And I'm going to take the color yellow from this Morphe 35B palette, and I'm going to kind of load up the brush like this on the flat side. And then I'm just going to go ahead, let me buff out these creases. And I'm just going to go ahead and place this all over the eye. I'm just going to first start out with the lid and then softly blend it up, or at least move it up. Not really doing much blending, mostly just patting motions. Pretty much I just want all of the concentration of the color to be on the actual lid. And then as I move it up, the color gets a little bit lighter just naturally. Kind of like when you're painting, the first spot you start to paint on is going to have the most saturation of color. And then once you move up, it gets a little bit less. And that's how it looks so far. And then same to the other eye. And for your desired eye look, as far as the shape goes, you could go as far out as you want. I'm kind of winging it out. But if you want more of a rounded look, then feel free to stop right around here before your tail starts. Kind of just go in more like circular hooped motions instead. But I want to wing this out because I think that look always looks really nice, especially for my eye shape. And we don't really need to do this because a lot of the color already faded into a nice transition, but if you want, you can go ahead and start blending it with the same brush. Just very lightly though, because we still have not set the primer down, so it could kind of get a little bit streaky and messy, especially if you're a little heavy-handed like I am. So now that we have that down, I'm going to go ahead in the Jaclyn Hill palette and take the shade Creamsicle right here on this nice fluffy brush and kind of just do a normal transition routine that I would do for another eye makeup look. And I'm kind of just softly starting out here, just lightly depositing the color. And this isn't really in the crease area, it's just in the upper area, really close to the brow bone. And for the motion, I'm just kind of running it back and forth. I'm not really doing any swirling motions, by the way. And I'm also not taking it too far into the inner part of the eye either. So that color kind of melted in with the yellow to create a nice little orange-brown color. Now I'm going to take this Morphe M441 and then the shade Pukey, which is right here. And this is more of like a mustardy, orange-yellow type of color, which is nice because it plays off of like the warm shadows. And I'm just going to put this in the actual crease. And this is going to really help to define the eye, make it not just look like it's one big yellow mess. Make it a little bit more wearable as well, because yellow eyeshadow is very difficult. It does look good on multiple different skin tones, but as someone like me who has yellow undertones, it could kind of be very difficult because it makes me look like I'm a little bit more sick or bruised. So with making the shadow a little bit more vibrant with the technique we used earlier, and also with warming up the crease, it helps to really make it look more natural and subtle as opposed to really harsh on the eye. Okay, I'm pretty much done with the eye look, and now I'm going to kind of set my brows. This is a very unique technique, and you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But if you find that your brows are a little bit crazy and can kind of get a little bit oily and kind of melt down a lot of your cream products, then you could go ahead and set them with translucent powder. If you want to wait till you have all your cream products on to do this, and go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and take the Sonia Kashuk flat brush. I use this all the time to actually set my primer on my lids, but I'm going to use this to actually set my brows, and I'm just using the RCMA no color powder to go over them, and I'm just going to just go ahead and press it down. So obviously it's making it a little bit more gray. Using this technique, especially if you're very sweaty and oily in the summer, is going to really help to make sure that your brows are locked in all day, especially if it's something that you're very self-conscious about. And now that I have all the powder on, I'm just going to take a spoolie and kind of run through it. It's almost like dusting away the bake. And now my brows are definitely a lot more matte than they were, and also they are a little bit more cool toned. And I will be using a brow gel, but I'll be going into that a little bit later after all of my makeup is done. So now what I'm going to do is just do a brow bone highlight. So I'm going to take the shade Beam from the Jaclyn Hill palette, which is a nice shimmer, and I'm going to put that right here. That way we're looking glowy, but the brow bone is also set, so it's not very creamy, but you get to fake it. So now I'm just going to take the fluffy brush one more time that we used for creamsicle and kind of just blend it out so that it's not interfering with our blend. I'm going to do lashes and all that a little bit later, but now it's time to move on to the face, I believe. So our sunscreen is on and it's kind of setting down and it's not as greasy as it was before, but just to kind of mattify the skin a little bit and make sure that it is sweat proof, I'm going to take the NYX Angel Veil Primer, which is a nice mattifying primer, and I'm going to put this mostly in the T-zone, but I am actually going to extend it out a little bit more. And like I've said in past tutorials, this is such a good primer because it doesn't make your skin look flat, it just makes sure that it looks more mattified and almost airbrushed. So you won't lose any of your dewiness or your glow, but it is going to help to control oil and too much shine in areas where you don't want it. Obviously, because I have dry skin, a skin technique or routine is more geared towards people like me who have dry skin. So if you find that you are a little bit more oily, NYX has another primer called the Shine Killer, and then there's also the Benefit Professional, which fills in those lines, and there's Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. It's like a foundation primer, and that one is a little bit more mattifying and silicone based, so it kind of fills in all of the pores as well. Those are my personal recommendations when I was a little bit more on the oilier side a couple years ago. As for right now, I only really have recommendations, true recommendations as a dry person, and all the other techniques that I'm using are going to help you out. So I have that primer down, and I'm actually going to take a tiny Real Technique sponge. I'm going to use what is now called the CKIN technique. I'm not sure if she created it or coined it, but what she does is she takes a little bit of translucent powder, not too much, and she places it in the T-zone. So I'm just going to use this tiny sponge and some translucent powder and do the same, but only focusing really in the T-zone. Now this might be a little bit scary if you haven't seen this technique before, but what this does is it sets your primer. So it makes sure that your primer and all of its properties kind of stay in place and don't move around, just like translucent powder is used to make sure that your foundation and concealer and other cream products don't move around. But this really helps to kind of make sure that you are matte for the majority of the day, because they are kind of the oilier areas of the face no matter what type of skin type you have. Because the layer is so thin, it's not going to really mess with all your cream products, and because it's also translucent and so finely milled, it's actually going to kind of blend with your cream products and not disturb it. So it's just a really good technique overall to kind of keep the skin more matte when it is really sunny and sweaty outside. So also if you're in more humid areas, it's also good because even if it's not that sunny and you're not sweating as much, you're still getting really damp on your face because of the air. So it just is all around a really good technique to kind of set everything down. Now you don't need to do this step, but I am actually going to take a green concealer and kind of fix this situation that we have going on right now, because the products that I'm using are not incredibly full coverage. So I just want to feel a little bit more confident, so I am going to put on some green concealer. This is totally not necessary, but I'm just going through it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I have the green concealer on. It's really embarrassing, but also I have on a little bit of the L'Oreal True Match concealer to kind of disguise my under eyes a little bit. Now I'm just going to move on to the foundation, and then I'm using two foundations with SPF in them, and they're both from the same company. So this is L'Oreal, and this is the Pro Glow. It has SPF 15, and it's also a 24-hour foundation, so it's going to stay on for a long time. I don't know if necessarily 24 hours is correct, but it is a long wearing foundation, so this is going to help you out, and it's also a glowy foundation. They do have the Pro Matte as well if you want to use that instead. And then just to darken the color up a little bit, because it is a little bit too light for me, I'm going to use the True Match, which is the shade Natural Beige, and this is a little bit darker, and this has SPF 17 instead of 15 like the other one. So it's really not like anything too crazy, it's not long wearing or anything like that, and it's a little bit like less full coverage than the other one. You don't have to necessarily do that, you could just use one, but I'm going to use both just so that I have the best of both worlds, and then I can actually match my color. So I just mix them both on the Beauty Blender itself, and then I kind of dab it in all of the areas I need it. Just gonna blend it out like normal. Finally, I have normal skin. And it's good to always take it down on the neck, not only just to make sure it blends, but also to provide some more SPF down there as well, to kind of protect it in a way from getting hit by the sun. Now that the foundation is blended out, I am going to go pretty heavy on the bronzing, and I'm going to use a cream product. This is the Tarte Clay Stick Foundation in the shade Deep Honey. You don't have to do this, but I need a little bit more bronzing up, and I find that the less products that I use, the better, because when I use this, I don't really have to go in that hard with powders. But if you are a little bit more oily, then I recommend to instead just do powders. Definitely going very hard today with the contour. I'm just going to blend all this out once again with my Beauty Blender. My arm hurts, so I'm just going to go ahead with a brush to kind of like relax my arm a little bit. This is just a stippling brush. That just goes to show you guys how much exercise I've been getting lately. That blending out contour is making my arm hurt. Since that is all blended out and it kind of is a little bit all over the place and not as concentrated in one area, now we're going to use the concealer to not only highlight but also to clean everything up. When you're in this type of weather where it's humid and hot and stuff like that, what I recommend is definitely using like a dry matte concealer. So for me, I'm going to be using the Tarte Shape Tape, or what little I have left of it. So it just really helps to kind of limit the amount of oils that you're producing, and also it helps to make your makeup just look very matte in the T-zone, which is the area where you definitely will get the most oily. I'm only going to put a little bit on the forehead and just a little bit on the chin and a tiny bit to just clean up the contour a little bit, and blending that out again with my Beauty Blender. Now that that's all blended out, I'm just going to take the same concealer brush I was using earlier just to blend out around the nose. I know this looks gross, but it's what you gotta do when you can't get into those creases. Especially if you have nose rings. It's like the most god-awful thing. Alright, and that is about it for cream products and all that, so now it's time to move on to powder. So I'm going to powder in a way I haven't done in a while, which is baking, and I'm going to actually use the same Real Technique sponge and just the same translucent powder. I'm going to lightly bake on the same areas where we baked prior when we put the primer on. I definitely know that it is very annoying to get greasy in these areas, and it never quite blends out either. Like once you notice it and you want to touch up, very hard to get it back to the way it looked before. So I find that as long as you bake, you're a lot more likely to less cakiness and greasiness from sweating. I'm not really taking too much of the bake like right up here into my eye creases. I only lightly set those because I just have such a problem with looking old and decrepit over there. So I kind of try to do a light set. Now while that is baking and setting, I'm going to go ahead and take this color from the Morphe 35B palette, and I'm kind of going to smoke out the lower lash line a little bit. I wanted to add like a little bit of pop to it. So just taking that pink with this C163 Opal Fluff / crease brush and just blending on the under eye. I'm just going to concentrate it right against the lash line. Now with this e.l.f. eye crease brush, I'm going to lightly take this hot pink color and kind of blend it out a little bit. I'm not really tapping off the excess, just because I want it a little bit more bright. Alright, so now the lower lash line and all the eye makeup is done. So now I'm going to kind of wipe off the bake, and for that I'm just going to use my Crown C531 brush and kind of sweep and then press to kind of melt all those powders down. And to kind of set the makeup, I'm going to take the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Water. Just a basic primer, water, and setting spray. It's not really anything mattifying or dewy, it's just very basic. It's pretty much just water and glycerin. It's really just going to set everything down and make sure that you don't look too cakey and that the powders aren't lifting off of your face. Also bring a little bit more life and dewiness to the skin. So now just quickly to bronze up the skin, I'm going to be taking my e.l.f. bronzing quad. It is kind of like a shimmer bronzer, and I'm doing this because like I still want to set everything, but I also don't want to lose a lot of the glowiness. So if you're setting it down with the powder, even if it is kind of shimmery, it's still going to leave your skin nice and fresh and dewy looking. and this is the Crown SS013 Angle Blush Brush. I'm just kind of swirling all the colors together and putting this in the hollows of the face, right over the cream contour. At this point, you can just use whatever you want, but this is what I have been using. Okay, so no blush, too red underneath as it is, but I am going to take the Amrezy highlighter and just, you know, do it up. Because this is a powder, it's not a cream, so you're still gonna have that wet look because this is a very wet looking highlighter where you still look a little bit glowy and healthy and fresh, but you're secretly just using powders. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do mascara, lashes, and everything off camera, and then I'll come back for the lip. Alright, so everything is pretty much done. I have the Demi Wispies on, and I did use the Maybelline Colossal Big Shot Mascara in collaboration with Makeup Shayla. Put a little bit of the rest of Beam on the inner corners, the shadow I used for my brow bone, and now it's pretty much just time to set down the brows. I'm using, as always, the Ulta Beauty Brow Tint in the shade Medium, and this is good not only for adding fibers to your brows to make them a little bit more fluffy, but also it kind of dries down to set them in place, almost like a hairspray. It's just going to make sure that your brows don't move around. Okay, so if your brows move throughout the day after doing all of that, you didn't hear those tips from me. Alright, so now for the lips, I'm going to do like 800 different things. First up for lip liner, I'm going to take this Maybelline Color Sensational Shaping Lip Liner in the shade Palest Pink. Alright, it still rolls up, so it's fine. I'm just going to use this in the contours of the lips. Okay, this like completely dried out, so don't buy this. Sorry Maybelline, but it's pretty much not doing anything because it's so dry. Yeah, do not get the Color Sensational lip liners because I barely even used this twice and it's already completely dried out and broken, so no need to buy that. Okay, so instead I'm just gonna go in with this e.l.f. lipstick in the shade Classy. It's a nice like bubblegum pink. I'm going to use that on the contours of the lips. Now, shades like this often piss me off because they kind of give you that Barbie vibe, and if you're not really going for that, it could be kind of frustrating. So instead I'm just going to put a nice peachy shade on the center of the lip to kind of offset that dark pink. So this is Kinda Sexy by MAC. It's a really vibrant orangey pink color. See how the pink is kind of peeking through on the sides? And then finally for the last step, if you don't want to do this, if you have long hair like I do and it could get into your lip gloss all the time, you don't need to wear one. I am going to go in with the e.l.f. Super Glossy Lip Shine in the shade Pink Kiss. And this is kind of like a similar pinky peach shade. And I'm just going to dab that on the center of the lip. And that is it for this look. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of sweat-proof / summer vibes makeup tutorial. I'm glad that I get to go back into the swing of things and do some makeup looks to kind of make myself feel better, but also to make you guys a little bit more happier as well. If you did enjoy this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And also, if you are new to my channel, then hit the subscribe button. I want to hit 100 by Monday, which is July 16th, my birthday. It would mean so much to me if I could reach that milestone because I didn't think that I was going to get here, and it would mean so much to me if you could join my little family that I have here. And also my social media will be featured at the end of this video, and also everything is linked down in the description box below if you want to give me a follow. It really helps me out there as well so that you guys could be updated on my content. If you do want to be notified, then hit the notification bell. I know that not a lot of people want to do that. I personally don't want to do it on everybody's videos either, but it is the problem that we have now with YouTube. So if you want to, then go ahead. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.